Welcome, let's rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jeff, are there any changes to the agenda?
You have one item that came in late, the TFL apportionment.
Yeah, the one
under-
for Corey?
Yep, under Natural Resource Management.
Okay. Would someone like to approve the agenda then?
So moved.
Okay. And Dave, okay, Ted and Dave, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Is there anyone for public input? All right, do you want to come and sign in at the podium? And then you can state your name, and then you will have 3 minutes. We welcome public comment, so.
Well, good morning. My name is Peter Bissler. I am the president of the Mississippi Headwaters Audubon Society, which is a small volunteer-led nonprofit here in north central Minnesota. We own and manage the Nielsen Spearhead Center, which is a 466-acre nature preserve in Rockwood Township in Hubbard County. It has a northwood setting with towering old-growth pines, hardwood forest, bogs, wetlands, nesting eagles, bear, wolves, beaver, and so forth, the kind of things that you can imagine at Lake Itasca here. The property encompasses the entire shoreline surrounding Spearhead Lake, and for facilities, we have 5 miles of trails, boardwalks, a rustic classroom building, caretaker's residence, and the shoreline is basically undeveloped other than the headquarters area. The reason I'm here today is to seek the county support for replacing our 30-plus-year-old entrance sign with a more attractive and welcoming one. That sign is located on county tax forfeit land at the beginning of a mile-long cartway that starts on County Highway 29 and leads back to the preserve. This is our only access to the center. Now, for that sign, we understand we need a sign permit from Environmental Services confirming that we meet all the performance standards of your sign ordinance, and that shouldn't be a problem. But since that sign and entrance road is on county land, we also need written permission from the county in a form of a lease or some other kind of document that allows us to install it on county land. The mission of MHAS is connecting people with nature. And for the past 40 years, we have hosted a summer outdoor day camp where kids get a hand-on experience with nature at Spearhead. Over that time, the program has serviced upwards of 4,000 area youth and their families. We also host school groups, youth organizations, and others who want to hike the trails or paddle the lake, participate in our nature programs. We're currently working with Hubbard County SWCD on some citizen science type trail activities to offer visitors, and partnering with them on a program to teach kids how to harvest seed cones for the DNR nursery, and then leverage that into teaching them about forest management, water quality, and other kind of related projects. Now, I've been talking with Eric Environmental Services and Commissioner Van Kempen on how best to work with the county on replacing the sign. As I understand it, the Public Safety and Transportation Committee meeting coming up on June 7th, we'll be talking about that question, and Ted suggested basically that I just come here, kind of introduce myself, our location there, so that you'd have kind of a better understanding of this kind of situation. We really are trying to be a unique type of destination for the county, for visitors to the county, and hope that the board can support us on our request. I have two handouts that might help a little bit in this. One is a handout that just has some information about our organization, and then on the back is a map of the Nielsen Spearhead Center, and the other has a picture of the current entrance sign and the planned one. And then on the back, it again has a map that shows our center along with all the county land that surrounds us there. There's well over 1,000 acres of county tax forfeit land that kind of encircles us on about 3+ sides. So I don't know which way to hand these out.
Thank you, Peter. It sounds like there's already a process in place that this will be discussed, and then it'll be put on the agenda at a future meeting.
That's my understanding,
Yep.
yes. They just thought an introduction would be helpful.
Thank you. It was very informative. I drove by there not too long ago, and I didn't even know it had been there, so
Well, it's one of the best kept secrets, which is
beautiful.
nice on the one hand, but on the other hand, we really wanted to serve more of the area community, in a way that meets our mission.
Thank you, Peter.
Madam Chair, if I can
Yes.
add what Peter said. It's a unique place, especially if you want to go on a lake. It's hard to find the public access, and if you have a big boat, you're not going to get out on the lake. But to have a lake that has no development on it, it's quite unique. And it's one of those things where you want to tell everybody about it, but you don't want to tell anybody about it. So it's a good secret up there, but I think it's something that should be shared with everybody. And I think it would bring people to Hubbard County.
Are you on the Transportation Committee?
Nope.
Which,
Stephen,
are.
Dave, we'll be talking about it.
yeah, okay. All
Thank you.
right. Okay, is there anything people would like to remove from the consent agenda for further discussion?
Madam Chair, just make a note that the minutes from the May meeting were
Yep.
added in their entirety
May
after our
7th, yes.
conversation.
Yep, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. So Ted and Steve, further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, Mike? County recognition for employees.
Good morning, Board.
Morning.
As far as county employee recognition is concerned today, in facilities management, we have Justin Lindahl, facilities worker, began the temporary position on May 28th.
Welcome. Thank you, Mike.
Short.
Okay, Andrea and Jeff?
Morning. A couple items today. Let's see which one's first. The first one is Hubbard County was selected, and I believe Jed and Bruce talked about this prior to me starting, that they were selected for this phase 3 of updating the county road safety plan that is currently in place for Hubbard County. And what's come about is with the feds passing that IIJA, the federal funding, updating this plan with this Safe Streets for All plan allows us to apply for money through that IIJA. So it was a grant that was issued. Hubbard County is participating with funding-wise. They're updating this plan, but part of this plan, Hubbard County needs to do a resolution in support of this plan, and with it committing to a goal to reduce serious and fatal accidents on our roadway system by a date, and then have a 50% reduction by a date. That's explained in the resolution. So I proposed, in talking with the consultant who's writing up this plan, that we aim for a 0 roadway fatality by 2045, and then a 50% reduction within 10 years of 2024. And so this is one of the first steps of this plan, is Hubbard County adopting this and being part of this plan, that we're accepting this, that we want to get towards 0 death. We want to, have less fatalities on our roadway systems. And then, as also part of it, is we're developing a task force that has interested entities involved, you know, the sheriff's office, the school districts, a couple commissioners that are on the public safety, EMS, police, city police. And we talk about areas of interest that projects could be developed to help reduce impacts. An example kind of this is the County 4 and 40 intersection project that we have going right now, where we're adding left turn lanes on that. It's a high-risk intersection with low visibility, high speeds, and so adding those turn lanes will help reduce that conflict of the stop traffic wanting to make that left turn movement. And that was identified in the last safety plan that was done. But then we applied for that HSIP funding. We received it for this project. So very similar, it just broadens it into the federal level of this IIJA funding, and updates it along the way. So after that task force is formed, they hold some meetings where we all talk about it, we develop a plan, and then they present to the board, if that's what the board wants, a workshop. And they go over the findings and the project and the plan, and then they update all you, and it's open to the public as well. So back to the agenda item, this resolution is kind of one of the first steps that the board needs to take to adopt this and commit to this goal of reducing the fatal crashes on our roadways.
So it's actually good timing. I had a call from a constituent this last weekend, and I have actually been thinking about this for the last couple of years and talked to Corey about it too. The junction of 107 and 34 is getting dangerous.
Okay.
I think the speed limit starts 40 at Fleet and the cemetery there. That probably needs to be extended all the way out to County Road 4.
Yeah.
And we have to look at how that intersection meets. People are coming in at 60 miles an hour, and people are trying to enter off 107. And then we've got people parking along Highway 34 when they're having a flea market at the old Red Button.
Yeah. I think it needs to be discussed. We need to bring MnDOT on board.
Yep.
In terms of when they're planning on doing like a corridor study through Park Rapids. They've just completed one in Bemidji. I know they've done one in Foston. They're working in Walker on one right now to look at, as a corridor, what makes sense in terms of intersection, speed, entrances to businesses. And I think, you know, getting the city involved, having you guys involved in that discussion, and then bringing in MnDOT to look at.
Put that one in your notes, because
Yeah.
that really needs to be escalated rapidly, because, you know, we've got growth going out that way now. And it's just gonna get worse and worse unless the sooner we can do something with it, or get them motivated to do a study.
Yeah, and I
better
can.
off we'll be.
I can contact MnDOT and their planners and kind of see what they have in plan right now, but also escalate it up and say that it is becoming a more difficult situation, especially in the summer months with the
Yeah.
tourism and whatnot.
Yeah, I agree with David. As Park Rapids grows to the east there, that's only gonna get worse.
As much as I hate to say it, I foresee some roundabouts in the future out there, but again, that's on MnDOT Highway.
More than one.
And more than one, I foresee, 3 or 4 I could see coming in on the east side of town, but that's MnDOT. But I'll definitely contact them and bring them into the discussion and start that conversation, and then especially getting the city on board too, because a lot of it, they'd have to future plan in terms of funding and what their vision is of the city too.
That 34 and 11 can be a tricky spot. You just sit there and wonder who goes next, you know. But yeah, roundabout there would be.
Yeah, the whole corridor, I could see some major changes. The one going up to Walmart, especially that 4-way stop there, that intersection by the bank is very narrow for the traffic moving to the east side.
Is there any downfall to participating in this? With this resolution?
Not that I see or know. I don't
think so.
I don't
Not that
think
I'm
so.
aware of it.
I think
No.
it,
So I could,
Special requirements being placed on anybody for,
not because it's, from my understanding, what it allows me to apply for the funding. Like, there's no standard that we have to follow that we're not doing already in terms of safety or in terms of our projects. It just opens up that door to more funding options for these specific safety projects that we identify in the plan.
And the initial county road safety plan was done back about, well, 2008, 9,
Yeah.
10.
Yeah.
And that's currently in place, but it's becoming obsolete. So when Hubbard County, I think, was one of the 8 counties in the state that got selected, I remember Jed was pretty happy that this would go forward and give us some other opportunities for funding and evaluation, so.
One example I could give, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing at all, but, when you come in on 71, then you take the cut across, what street is that to go downtown? Is that Main? Anyway, the city did that and had federal dollars and put the bike path in there. So where Walgreens is there, when people are turning to right, there's actually a bike path, just like there is out by Northwoods Bank. But it's not the natural inclination for someone driving a car to not use that to turn. But that was part of their criteria for the road, was to put the bike path in to receive the
Yeah.
funding. Yeah, does someone want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, so Dave and Steve, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Great. The next item I have is a new lawnmower for the North Shop. The one they currently use up there came to us used from NRM, and it's just become very costly to repair. Right now, they don't know what's wrong with it. They've repaired it multiple times by themselves. And it's needed to maintain the grounds up there. There's quite a bit of yard and open space to be mowed. So we got quotes from Acme Tools and Up North Power and Sports for just a residential 60-inch deck lawnmower, zero turn, and Up North Power and Sports came in the low quote for $5,224.
I'll move to approve the low quote.
I'll second.
Dave and Steve, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, so that's all I have, and Jeff, if you have any updates and
Yes,
construction-wise,
Yeah.
I'll give those too.
A few things going on. Our annual gravel surfacing contract is continuing, and as it stands right now, moving along quite well. Everybody seems pretty satisfied with the gravel, and I would expect for that work to be completed on or around the 12th of June, about a week from tomorrow. So a couple weeks ahead of schedule, which is nice. Our calcium chloride contract continues to move forward. It's still a couple of weeks ahead of schedule. However, with all the recent rain, it's been delayed periodically, actually rather frequently. We've held off. I don't know if we did any chloride last week because there was so much potential rain, and the rains that we did have, we didn't want to get that product washed out from anybody's roads. Our bridge on Cassaw 13 over the Crowing River south of Nevis, they completed the concrete bridge railing yesterday. The approach roads are nearly complete. We've got approach road paving, guardrail, and turf establishment to complete. So the project still remains ahead of schedule, and hopefully a couple weeks from now, we'll be anticipating a road opening and detour being lifted. But still remains on the weather a little bit. And yeah, on the docket, our Cassaw 24, we've got a box culvert project up there, and that's tied in with Mantrap Township's box culvert that they were able to get funding for. So we've got our permits now in place, and we're about ready to send out our right-of-way easement acquisition documents to the 4 property owners out there. They're small easements, but still, you got to deal with it. So that's about it for the most part.
And
Other
I-
work will be coming, so.
I have one question for you. So a constituent has asked how to get a road sign. So did they just call your office and then you order one? How does that work?
Yeah, we'd have to order it made. We'd have to order it made and then
An address sign or a road sign?
No, a private drive sign.
drive sign. Yeah, and I did receive your email and I gave it to Scott. He just hasn't got the price back to me yet from our
Okay,
our
I'll tell
supplier.
her, wait, okay.
Okay, yeah.
All right,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Do
Thank
you have
all.
any update on County 83, the Howard Lake Road from Cass? Do you have any update on progress,
I haven't heard anything on progress or
if it's out
What's
for
going on?
bids or anything like that? I keep getting asked, when's it gonna be done, when's it gonna be done, when's it
Yeah,
gonna be done?
I guess I haven't heard anything
Okay,
update from
all
Cass
right.
County on it.
I'll talk and see if I can get an update
Okay.
tomorrow then, so I can pass that along. And then, nice to hear the bridge is moving along fast. The chloride started in the north, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
And it's coming south, okay. Because I had questions about that, when would that be here? And then there's others that don't want it, obviously.
Yes,
And you had a meeting with some individuals, I heard.
Yes, I met with some people and, I guess as far as I look at it is that if it's best integrity for the road, then we should be doing it on the road surface. If it's not needed for the stability of the road or for the gravel, then it's not, but in that case, it was the stability of the road, it was needed, so.
Okay.
It's.
You know, Jeff, why the 13 bridge went pretty quick. Why'd the Shell River Bridge take so long on number 6 or 23?
I don't know. I
I
don't
mean, it's
know.
been forever.
I think maybe that's a cast-in-place slab span, if I'm correct. I'm not positive. And if it is, that typically does take at least 6 to 8 weeks longer, if it is a slab span.
These precast beam bridges are the quickest to build, is what we did on 13, and they're my preferred because they do go quick, but sometimes you can't, or sometimes the designer chooses to put their own mark on it, and they do the slab span, which takes a lot longer. There's a lot more forming and a lot more.
Too, then, so it's like, oh.
Yeah, but, yeah.
And did you get a call about County 19 about speed limit signs?
I do not believe so, that I know of.
Okay, all right. I had somebody just, on the other end, there was a complaint that there was no speed limit sign posted, and it's 55, that's what the state statute says, if it's not posted, but,
Yeah.
apparently this person doesn't agree with that, so. Just kinda left it at that.
Guess go to legislatures, I guess.
Well, they wanted 55-mile-per-hour signs put up,
Okay,
and I don't like putting more of them up, just because it's another obstacle and another
yeah.
target
there's-
for somebody to shoot or throw things at or run over, so.
Yeah, I think
That gets
Minnesota is
costly.
very aggressive with their signing, to put it nicely. They
Okay.
have a lot. But, yeah,
Well, thank you.
yeah, thank you all.
Thanks.
Lori?
Good morning, board. Let's see what's first on. Okay, the first item is to review and approve a low quote from Future Forest Inc. to prepare recently harvested sites for tree planting. We do this every year. It's where they use a disc trencher on the back of a skidder and they prepare the planting beds for the trees. So this year we just got one quote from the Future Forest, and it's at $125 per acre. There's 66 acres, 3 sites. Last year was only $95 from the same company, but the sites were closer together and there was more acres, so the price was adjusted a little lower. So we believe that this price is reasonable and looking for approval.
Have you ever considered mounding instead of trenching?
Like windrowing?
Oh, just a mound?
No. Trenching it seems like it creates it gets rid of the grass roots. But yeah, I see what you're saying. I guess I've never seen that in Minnesota.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Trenching, you kind of move away some of that humus layer.
Yep. Yeah. And yeah, so no, that's interesting.
I'll make a motion to approve the only quote.
I'll second.
Ted and Steve, is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
I
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, this is the item, the next item is to do with the property up north by Potlatch, parcel 07.08.03010, and it's for the county to purchase that parcel for $51,512.58 after fees are added in. And then we will get the deed from the state and pass that on to the county. So, looking for,
And then very quickly thereafter, hopefully transfer it to a private party so
Yeah.
it comes back on the tax rolls.
yep, it's for economic development.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Dave and Tom, further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thanks.
Corey.
And then the last item was the apportionment. Sorry, I got it in on Thursday. We missed it by one day, so I'll try to explain it the best I can from here. So it's our 2023 funds to apportion. We're looking to apportion 30% to the forest development account. That's what we can apportion by statute, and then 20% to the recreation account, and that's again what we can apportion by statute. And then the remaining funds to be apportioned as acquired by law to the general fund 40%, and then to school districts another 40%, and to local townships 20%. And I just wanted to note that the apportionment to parks last year was around $118,930, and this year it's $167,740.13. So without a land sale, I think we did pretty good. We're pretty fortunate that our timber sells pretty well and kind of makes up for that value. So thank you to the loggers that support our timber market or timber industry. So
Like seeing that, the proceeds for forest development go up to 30%, because they were at 25 for.
yep, and the things are getting way more spendy. Chemicals are getting spendier. Bud capping's getting spendier. So.
Suggested that to Chip a number of times, moving up to 30.
Yep.
Trenching is more expensive.
Yeah. So just looking for approval for them apportionment numbers.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Tom and Ted, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And 2024 fund should be on the same track. So, and then I went to a land commissioner meeting, and it sounds like the land sale stuff's back in order. So after the lawsuit, we're back at. I think everything's getting back to normal here. So the parcels that tax forfeited from 2016 to 2023 are the ones that'll be affected, where we'll have to give 75% back to the state, whatever we make. But anything before 2016, we'll just follow normal to the 282 statute. So, yeah, we're finally getting things figured out. It's good. So thank you.
Hi, Eric, come on up.
Do you have a preference on order, or is the order all right?
Order's fine as far as the veterinary clinic first. So I've got two conditional use permit applications for the board this morning. The first is application 2CU24 by Cal and Amanda Handyside. Their application seeks a professional services business, CUP, to operate a veterinary clinic on a non-riparian property to the east of Moran Lake, down southeast of town. It's the old Fair Havens Golf Course location, if that helps with knowing the property. They went through a subdivision application to break off part of that property. They've acquired the property in full, and that's where the clinic is going to operate, in that old clubhouse structure. And then there's a pole barn that's right next to it, where Mr. Becker that sold them the property has some vehicles stored, but they're also going to use that for miscellaneous storage of things. They don't have any outdoor, overnight, care planned for any, animals. They might eventually do an outside, structure like a lean-to, just to be able to have animals out of the weather when it's, not nice, when they're doing, work, large animal work, on site, but it sounds like the bulk of what they do with large animal is actually on farms and not bringing, animals to the clinic. So they, would keep office hours, but it doesn't sound like it'd be a standard 40-hour work week as far as small animal, appointments, at least with how they're operating presently. Most of what the vets do is on-farm calls with, a few on-site or at clinic, appointments for small animal work. So the planning commission held a hearing. I don't recall there being any public comment. You've got copies of the draft meeting minutes that you can read through. They came up with 7 recommended conditions. They went through those with the applicants, and the applicants didn't have any objection to them. Basically deals with things like saying their business hours 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. They can have emergency large animal services on the weekends. They can operate year round. They can't overnight board animals. With the vet clinic, that would be one of the main considerations, is noise for the neighbors, of making sure that they aren't going to hear donkeys braying at 11 in the night. Vehicles can only enter off at County 11. There's 2 existing approaches there with a circular driveway that'll work well for trailers when they're bringing cattle, horses, other large livestock to the property. Specifying they can't have any other access points besides those. Specifying where parking will be, as they had shown on their site sketch, which is right in front of the clinic structure. Any signs that they would place would have to comply with the sign ordinance. They've got a sign planned for the open lawn area between the 2 driveway approaches onto the property that has good sight lines to it from County 111. And then they also spoke to future structures, saying that if they wanted to add them, they could, but it'd have to be dedicated to the vet clinic use and not be able to be used for some other use, and that any septic sewage generation that might occur from those structures would have to be properly permitted and sized. So that was the planning commission's recommendation, and I would agree with the commission's recommendation. I don't see any real issues. I think this is a good location for the proposed use. If the board has any questions, happy to do my best to answer them.
I drove out there this morning, and it's a beautiful spot, easily accessible, with the circular drive, far enough away from the lake. It talked about that in the supporting documents, and what they plan to do is well documented. I don't have any problem with this. I would like the conditions adopted, the finding of the facts. I think the Board of Adjustment did well with that.
I also think the county road makes a nice barrier there.
Yeah.
So I can't see anything getting into the lake from the veterinary
Right.
clinic.
Yeah,
No, and they've got nice mature forest cover on
They
a lot
do.
of the property too, that
Yeah.
acts as a good screen from adjacent landowners.
it's really peaceful there.
We need large animal vets.
We do need large animal vets, yes.
There's a shortage in southern Minnesota.
And they had a plan that if an animal comes in with great need, they already had a plan of where they were gonna send it. Yeah. Anything to add, Dave or Steve?
I'll make a motion to approve
Okay,
I'll second.
with the
with the
conditions.
conditions and the finding of facts?
Yes.
Okay, and Steve seconds. Is there further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, thank you. The next conditional use permit application that we have is from the Heartland Lakes Community School, looking to operate a new public charter school on riparian property on the east side of Fishhook Lake, where the Northern Pines Assembly Grounds, Church Camp, and Retreat Event Center is located. The Planning Commission held a hearing. There was one neighbor that made comment about Forget-Me-Not Drive that's on the south side of the property that would be used by buses and food delivery vehicles to bring things to the lodge structure. But other than that, there weren't other public comments made. The Planning Commission went through the conditions that were being considered with the applicants, and that led to 10 conditions that the Planning Commission recommended with findings of fact. The school would operate in 4 of the existing structures at the camp. They're kind of centrally located in the south central part of the property, and then they would have outdoor classroom space that they would use, I think, in fairly close proximity to those structures. All of the criteria that were placed into the ordinance as far as performance standards to allow a school use to occur have been met as far as setbacks from side lot lines and having documentation in the file that they have adequately sized septic systems and alternate septic sites that are sufficiently sized for if and when those are needed. So that's been taken care of. There was a question with Forget-Me-Not Drive during the meeting as to whether that was a private road or a public road. It's not a road that's maintained by the township, but after I did further research after the Planning Commission meeting, I found out that that actually was platted as a public road back in the early 1900s when that whole property was platted. So it appears to be a public road for what that's worth as far as questions of access with the neighbor. They did make a recommendation in the condition that there be some pull-off areas created on that road because it's kind of a one-way traffic condition right now. So if and when you would encounter a bus or a food delivery vehicle and you're in a passenger vehicle, there'd be an opportunity to pull off one or the other to the side to allow two-way traffic to flow without it requiring somebody to back all the way down the road. The other item that came up after the meeting that I believe there's board members from the school here that could speak to it is condition 9, which dealt with requiring that the state building code sign off be obtained before the operating permit can be issued. Apparently that's a slow process of obtaining that approval from the state, and the state won't allow the school to operate without that being given. So I think you could visit with the board members about that potentially needing some rewording to make it work well for them, or potentially you could say that's addressed at the state level and we don't need to cover that in a condition. So that'd be up to the board to make that determination. Otherwise, they went through the Planning Commission went through all the conditions that they're recommending with the applicants, and there weren't any objections raised by the applicants to those conditions. So I can be happy to speak to any of them if the board has specific questions on any of the recommended conditions from the Planning Commission. Otherwise, like I said, the board members are here too if you'd have questions for them as to how they envision the school to operate on the property.
Eric, I got a question. So the Forget-Me-Not Drive, if I remember reading correctly, there was 3 seasonal cabins and 1 year-round residence?
That sounds about right.
And then I've got the map up here. What kind of distance is that? Is that like a quarter mile or 1/8 of a mile or?
I want to say it's around 900 feet, if my memory's correct.
I drove down there this morning, Ted. That's my only concern about the application is the road is very narrow. There are a few spots that you can, do a turnout. There's no way that you could meet anybody on that road. my concern is, it's already labeled for deliveries, so the camp's already getting deliveries there. How the school is gonna enforce, like, say, an evening event and parking, you know, parents come and there's a road there, and if they park there, they're going to, the people that are living down there are not gonna be able to get out. Interesting that it's a township road. I thought after a certain amount of time, if a road isn't maintained, the township isn't liable, but I'm not sure about that. So that was my only concern about this. I did notice, as I read, you know, it's approved up to 200 students, and for the first 6 years, I believe the maximum you're planning on is 120. So there's room to iron out kinks if need be. But the passage of the road does concern me, because even with the best of intentions, the public just tends to park wherever there's an access. So,
I don't believe it, just because it's a public road doesn't mean it's township. Because it could
Well,
be
Eric-
platted and dedicated for public use.
Right, it was, yeah, to
so they
clarify.
never did adopt it.
Yeah.
No, the
Okay,
township is
all
not
right, thank you.
maintaining it.
Okay.
It's just dedicated to the public in the
Okay.
plat.
So I think, you know, it would be 900 feet, you know, if you create those pull-asides, you know, as long as they're not too far apart, you have to be able to see and have a pull-side and then see the next pull-aside in order to make that work.
And that works only if there aren't cars just parked there for,
Yeah, you wouldn't
for
be
an
able to let
event.
anybody park
So
on
that's
it.
gonna have to really be monitored.
I don't know, being as narrow as it is, that anybody really would, because they'd know they're blocking the road. It's almost like you're parking in the middle of the road then.
Are we able to speak? Okay.
Well, you couldn't park on the pull-asides is what you mean, or the
No,
pull-
I'm just talking about, you know, say there's an event and people see the road and there's all kinds of traffic, so then they just park there.
Yeah,
The plan is for something like that, is this Forget-Me-Not Road is only gonna be for buses. They actually have a pull-around loop where all cars for drop-off students, like their main driveway will be used. I believe that when we were here, they were talking about, you know, traffic, and I think one of the conditions is that we have to put up signs, that say like, this is for bus this way, this is a one-way route out, you know, drop-off pickups are here, and then, we're gonna have signs for parent parking and visitor parking, and then staff parking is elsewhere, so that all, the parents, and so if we do have events, they'll be using their main driveway of the camp, not this Forget-Me-Not. This should only be used for delivery trucks, and possibly 1 to 2 buses will be driving there during the school day.
I did read that. I hope it's the best. I mean,
Oh,
I have high hopes, but
yeah, right.
I can sense the frustration of the person that shared, in public comment only, you know, if they need to get out or in, and then,
We talked to them after the
Did you?
meeting,
Okay.
and, I guess the reason that she had brought it up was that they were in the understanding that like 60 cars would be driving down.
oh, I
the
see,
drive.
okay.
When we had the meeting, it was explained that it would just be deliveries, which they're already having.
Yes,
here,
they are,
and
yep.
then, like 1 to 2 buses a day. They seemed a lot different about it, and were
Okay.
actually kind of retracting, but their frustrations were.
Okay,
after that.
good.
Has the county engineer approved the county one access? Okay, 'cause I read that somewhere in there. I was
Yep,
trying to
that was a
find it.
prerequisite, because it wasn't on a higher, classification of road, so it required the road authority's consent, and that was obtained.
And the speed limit on accessing one, you know, is 45 out there, and it's patrolled a lot, and so people aren't going 60. So that's a good thing.
And it sounds like there's some plans, underway for improvements to County One as you're turning off of 34 heading north, at least through the city limits portion, as far as getting some sidewalks, curb and gutter in the next few years, going, so, when I spoke with, Jeff at the highway department, initially about it, sounded pretty supportive of that being a good place for the school in light of the improvements that they had in mind for that portion of the road.
Well, I'm really excited about this option for students. I'm very supportive of the project. I will make a motion to approve removing condition 9 because I believe that will be taken care of by the state. And then adopting the finding of facts also. But I will, conditions 1 through 8 would remain.
In 10?
Or 10, is it? Oh, yeah, okay, forgot about that one, yep.
I'll second.
Okay, is there further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Are you going to have an open house?
Yeah, and we have monthly community events.
Okay, I look forward to coming out there, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Anything else, Eric?
thank you, that's all that I had for you.
Okay. All right, Jeff, do you want to lead just in this discussion before we go into closed session?
Are you available after?
Can you
the
all
meeting
have a copy
little
of
bit?
the
Can I come down?
agenda item?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Just for visual reference, the conversation is about the site plan and the neighborhood for the jail expansion project. And we had previously talked about the possibility of attempting to acquire a couple of adjacent parcels that would be impacted by the project and/or just to make things slightly easier. The project, the expansion, requires a conditional use permit from the city, and as drawn, will require a variance from the setbacks relative to the city parcels. That's likely to happen that's likely to happen anyway. The only way the setback wouldn't happen is if the parcel to the west was acquired and we had that additional space. So the two parcels in question are the ones that are circled to the north of the garage and to the west of the garage. So it would be our intention to approach both of those property owners with a purchase offer. It's fairly common. The language that you've seen is something I got from Clay County Administrator that they did when they did their jail expansion project. I've had Jonathan review it. I've also had Bruce Schwartzman from BKV review it. So the question at hand would be relative at this point to what's a reasonable offer to make on these properties. And that would be the reason to close the session, would be to discuss the value of the property. And then outside of the closed session, if the board authorizes us to send the letters making the purchase offers, then that action would actually happen outside the closed session. So any questions about what we're talking about before we do a closed session just to talk dollars and cents?
I just have one question, just, are there people currently living at both of?
The property to the west
Yep.
is owner occupied. The property to the north
Yep.
is rental, and it is occupied.
I have a question that probably would be one that should be asked in public, because it's not necessarily dollars and cents, but are these two properties necessary for this jail expansion? Because this is gonna be adding a couple $100,000 and plus to the cost of the jail expansion.
They're not necessary. They do two things. One is, if you take a look at the property to the west, we're really impinging on their sight lines because we're taking down those apartment-style garages and putting up a garage wall that's gonna be twice as high. So we will probably be having a negative impact on their property. That's probably the best reason for this consideration. The property to the north, the reason for considering that is this intersection between the alley and Front Avenue, and the radius is around there. If we had that property, we would probably round that out and include the space where the garage is on the driveway for this project. So, that's a valid question. It's not uncommon to do this. We're right now designing as if we don't have them or don't have access to them. And And I anticipate, and then when I talked with Steve Larson up in Clay County, they had a public comment on this, and it turned out that one of the properties that was least affected by the project, so they put a time frame on how long the purchase offer is available. You know, and this, the occupants of this resident on Third Street West may not be ready to sell now, but they may want to sell later. And so if we had a contingent purchase offer on that, because it is going to affect the value of the property later and affect what they're able to get for it, very likely, that's also something that could be considered. So if it's not now, it would be later when they are in a position to sell. And we don't know that. So at the end, what I'll be asking is the opportunity to send these letters and contact the property owners. But it is, and we'll talk about the dollars and cents in a minute, so you'll have an idea of what that is. And obviously, if purchase offers are sent, if they're approved, then that's when those dollar amounts would be made public. There will be, relative to neighborhood comment, of course, when the city goes through the conditional use process and the variance process, everybody within the radius will be notified, so there will be a conversation about this. The architects will be there with this site plan in a bigger format and have a conversation about that. The other thing to note is that alley, the city is planning to improve that and pave that. So it will make access for these other homes to go out. I don't know what the road is directly to the west of that, but they'll still have access to go out front, and they'll still have access to go to the west. And it'll be an improved alley.
Are we ready to make a motion to enter into closed session? Okay.
Sure, I'll make that motion to enter closed session.
Okay, so Dave makes a motion to enter into closed session to talk about the value for the purchase properties adjacent to the jail expansion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I will second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Have to go into this. Push that button. Push that button. And we should be back in session.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion to move anything forward?
So after conversation about the value of the real property, I believe that the consensus was to allow the administrator to send an offer letter to Conklin at 505 3rd Street West.
Yes, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, so Ted and Steve, is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, on to committee reports. Ted, do you want to start?
Sure. Set here. Let's see, the first one, I filled in for David at the Emergency Communications Board. That was a Zoom meeting. There's a lot of terminology that I do not understand. Let's see,
Thank you for doing that, Ted.
you're welcome. It was, I should be sitting in on more of those, actually, I told myself during the meeting, because there's a lot of interesting stuff that's going back and forth. You know, and it's obviously it's the emergency communication stuff. No one from RAC was there from Hubbard County. Let's see, they moved some things around to accommodate one of the people that had to leave early. Old business. Let's see, reporting tool was down because of upgrades at the Grand Forks. Traffic was added. Let's see, Grigla Fire was added, 10 radios. Clearwater was updated. Beltrami looking at a new radio to look at and okay. Hubbard County, there was some assistance there where they had lost a radio and they was helped to find it. The U of M is participating on part of the plan. That part I guess I didn't understand, but it sounded like that the University of Minnesota has more resources and stuff to help facilitate some of this stuff that was needed. They agreed to be the host proxy servers in the expanded areas. They talked about, there was a conference that had happened lately, and they talked about reimbursements and stuff there. Let's see. Remote console cost and the mobile laptops. Need network connectivity, hardware costs, and recurring costs. State contract was $40 per month. The region was paying monthly expensive of $80 per month. Looking for county to be the host, and where to store the council and FirstNet. No action needed at this time. Request for grant funding from the state for EMS, sheriffs, and police and fire departments. This is one where they wanted all the possible EMS, sheriff's departments, police departments, and fire departments to send in grant requests to the state at this time. It'll show that the need is there, a greater need than what they may assume is needed around here. Dan Wahlberg is retiring. I don't know if that rings a bell with you. Okay. I think that kind of hits the high spots. Let's see. Well, also had a Northwest Minnesota Juvenile Center meeting. I actually had two. One was a budget meeting, which was at later on in the month. As far as the budget meeting goes, just like everything, costs are going up. So we looked at what the other facilities in the state charge per day for their, what they call per diems or daily charges. And we looked at select number of facilities that provide what Northwest Minnesota Juvenile provides. We kind of found the averages, and then we plugged in the averages, and then that would make it so that we could, I guess we want to say, make a profit, stay
viable.
yeah,
Yeah.
pay for our costs, that kind of stuff. So that's what we're looking at. Of course, that has to go before the full board for approval. So there will be one more budget meeting before the full board next month, or in July, actually. Let's see. At the regular Northwest Minnesota Juvenile Center meeting, we went over the 2023 annual audit. And there again, that's where our financial guy pointed out some of the areas that we aren't keeping up with costs. And so with him bringing those to light, which we kind of already knew, that's where we kind of determine where we should be adjusting our costs or our charges so that we can pay for what we have to pay for. Went through the policy and procedures, the medical administration and disposal, section 11 for health and hygiene services. Also went over the personnel policy for overtime pay policy. Went over the client movement reports. The program facility and maintenance updates. We're gonna get some more quotes on some of that stuff. The building caulking project we wanna get some more definition there because it sounds like some needs to be done right away and some doesn't need to be done right away. The JCC administrators training, talked about Lions compliance. And then the legislature had mandated that 3 unit supervisors, this is gonna affect 3 unit supervisors. The state legislature kind of mandated that their salaries had to be a certain amount. So some of those 3 of them have to be adjusted to meet state standards. And it wasn't a great amount combined, but like I say, we have to follow state rules and stuff like that. So it's one of those unfunded mandates, I think is what they call them. Let's see, and the managers meeting. I guess Shar and I were there. It was kind of an open discussion. I don't think look at my notes here quick. Work session. Must not have been much going on at the managers meeting because I didn't take any notes.
Yeah, it was just standard updates.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you,
Oh,
Ted.
one last thing, please. 2 weeks ago at our regular board meeting, I made a mistake. I had talked about how I didn't feel that the RFP for the property up by, in Varden Township had been included in the board packet. I was mistaken. Later that day, Jeff had emailed me and had showed me where I'd made my mistake. At that point, like I say, I'd made a couple of mistakes. First off, not reading Denise's draft update. That would have thrown up a flag for me and I would have questioned it weeks earlier. And then another mistake I made was not remembering that we had received it. And my third mistake was that I filed it away with my April paperwork. But with all those, I did make the one mistake, big mistake, that I didn't think that the request for proposal had been included in our packets when in fact it had been. I have talked with I did send an apology through Jeff, and Jeff forwarded it to everybody, and I appreciated that. And I have talked with Jeff and Char and Steve, person to person about this, and they've shown me great grace. Char says we all make mistakes. You know, Jeff made it seem like it was no big deal, so I really appreciate that. And I just, I hope that I don't make mistakes, but I sometimes do, and like Neil Young says, I've been wrong before and I'll be there again. So I just wanted to get that out there. I made the mistake in a public meeting, and I thought a public apology would be the right thing to do. So I apologize.
Thank you, Ted.
You're welcome.
Tom?
Let's see, we had a Crow Wing, One Watershed, One Plan meeting. The Citizen Advisory Committee will be meeting on August 5th. Public hearing will be mid-October. I think prior to that, there'll be a 60-day public comment period. David, July 25th is the next policy meeting. I'm going to be gone. Would you be able to make it for that?
Let's see.
July 24th.
Is that at Sourcewell again?
Yep. 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah, just forward me the information when you get it.
Okay.
I'll cover it.
I'll do that, thanks. We had a Kitchigami Library Budget Committee meeting last week. We came up with 3 different scenarios for, different COLA levels, and we'll submit that recommendation to the full board meeting in June to decide which one to submit to all of the government units. I'm sure it'll be at least a 2% COLA, but we'll see where it goes. And then Parks Board meeting, had that recently. Deep Lake Park is now fully posted. They're still having a few trespass signs, but now I think the deputy's going to try to keep a closer eye on it because you got to catch them. May be able to get a fishing pier free from the DNR for Deep Lake. They do offer, this one over here on Fishhook in the Heartland Park was free from them, so we may get the same thing over there. That'd be a nice addition for it. That unnamed lake to the north of Deep Lake, they'll probably be submitting a request to this board to name it, and we're thinking on naming it Velsatai Lake in just a little honor of the history of the place. So that may be coming to this board soon. Russ Johnsrud and I walked the area north of the softball field at Heartland Park. You can see that as a potential area for a dog park. So they will be marking that area off, and then it'll be needing some mulching to be done. There's been no update.
It's not fenced currently, right?
No, it's not. It'll be fenced. And they located the boundaries, the northern boundary of it. It was, it's just all, it looks all the same going from the Heartland Park to the next owner. But there is a little marker in there.
How many dogs will it be able to handle at one time?
There's a lot of land available there.
There is,
And
okay.
they're thinking of putting it pretty larger than I've seen.
Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Good for you.
Okay, and as of our Parks Board meeting date, there has been no update on whether or not legislature approved that Heartland Park Lake Benedict land exchange. It probably did, but we haven't got a certainty on that yet. And that's it.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Steve?
I didn't have very much. I had Northwest Juvenile, along with Ted. I don't have anything to add there. The only thing I'm seeing is I'm gonna have a conflict between Leech Lake Watershed and Northwest Juvenile. It's at the same time, same day. So that's something to consider in the future.
So is Ted, are you the alternate?
No,
Well, see,
there's 2 of us.
Oh, there is always,
Yep, because
okay.
we're members, we're founding members, I guess
I
you could
asked
say.
that question years ago. It was like, how come Dan and I are both going? Well, then Mindy there, the superintendent, had told us that as founding members, we are allowed to have 2 people there.
Do you feel like we need to? Can Steve just be freed up and then you
That's
just
what I'm
take it?
thinking is, you know, if
There's just the only times that I'm concerned is they don't have enough for a quorum on occasion.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
that's the only, and it might not be a problem. I just wanna kind of monitor it here and see if it becomes an issue, then maybe we'll
Because we
have
want you
to
to be at the Leech Lake.
flip-flop some things
Yeah.
around. So, and that's only once every other month, so.
Okay.
Really, that was it. That was the only one. The other one was canceled for me, so.
Okay, Dave?
All right, a couple things, let's do the normal one first. The last Heritage meeting, the quality rating factors all stayed the same, all at 4. 6 hires, 5 terminations, 4 open FTEs yet, 0 agency contracts, 16 applications. Occupancy at the manor is 19 out of 26. And we should be getting approved for the elderly waiver any day now. There's a little bit of a confusion at the state level because the cottages in the manor, the state has it licensed as one entity, but the addresses are different. And so they're just walking through that, fixing that, and we'll be able to take some elderly waivers and fill a few more apartments. Rather than getting nothing for empty apartments, we'll get something. And the state did bump up the rates on that, so it's not as terrible as it was before with the reimbursements there. The other thing that's, let's see, the cottages are 17.5 out of 18. Heritage Living Center, when we looked at this, was at 36.8. I think we're up to 40 or 42 almost now. So definitely the demand is there, it's just getting the staff so that we can take more. As far as EBITDA is concerned, the manor had a positive EBITDA of 28,721. The cottages positive 39,170. Heritage Living Center had a positive EBITDA of 38,734. Total combined 106,625. And that actually combined gives us a net income of 13,232 for the month of April. So still doing all right on that front. There will be, according to our audit that's being done, the state looks at your revenue and your expenses, and that determines what you can charge for rates. Apparently, because our revenue has gone up and our expenses have gone down, our rates are going to be lowered. So that's kind of frustrating. As you manage better, you get punished.
Yeah.
It's kind of goofy. And the opposite, you get more money, which, yeah. we had a little bit of discussion on that. But anyhow, it looks like our rates are going to drop about $50 a day. So expect come August or September, Stephanie will probably be coming and discussing the ECPN thing with us again. And there's an opportunity to make some of that up there without hurting private pay or affecting private pay negatively. Since the rates are gonna drop, we might be able to compensate by doing a higher ECPN level, and private pay will still get a discount. Still get a rate drop, which would be kind of a win-win all the way around. So just be aware that might be coming, but other than that, everything's going okay. The roof is done. We're just waiting for
Air conditioning's finally in.
the what?
Air conditioning.
Air conditioning's finally taken care of. And flooring in the cottages is the last thing left to get a refresh on that. So we're just waiting for that to be done.
One more thing before you go on. The legislature did not get around to renewing what they did last year, and that was an additional $12.35 per resident per day. So statewide, everybody will take a reduction in that. Really frustrating.
Yeah, especially since it was much needed to help people dig out
Yeah.
from COVID.
When you said,
So other than that, things are going all right.
Go ahead, Tom.
when you said net income of 13,000, is that, because you did EBITDA, but that's earnings before interest, taxes,
Yeah.
and stuff.
And depreciation,
But then
yeah.
Did you add that stuff in and back in and get that net income?
Yes, so
Oh,
it's actually, you know, in the private word, profitable.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, so big turnaround. There's been like, I don't know, the cash flow turnaround is, to date for this year is like over 600,000 difference.
Isn't that something?
So, yeah, quite drastic.
Yeah.
If it continues for the rest of the year, obviously, if you have a positive net income, you've more than covered your depreciation and interest and amortization. There's been deferred maintenance for quite a while though, and that's why we're doing things. So we're trying to catch up on that stuff. You know, the county over the years has been floating that cash shortage. So there's still a cash shortage of roughly $1.3 million, but we took that out of cash and moved it to an accounts payable to the county. So it's now on the balance sheet as an accounts payable. So depending how the year goes, if we generate enough cash flow and stuff, we'll look at starting to figure out how we can start chipping away at that accounts payable and get the county some of its cash back. We don't want to do that too fast, because then you put yourself in a, but if we can start whittling away at that over a period of time and get that back, the county will be made whole again. It's fund balance. So that's the goal.
And then a little frustrating because the CDC hasn't updated any of their COVID mandates. And so they were once again wearing masks and having to take tests. And the current criteria is if you live in a nursing home, you have to be vaccinated every 4 months. So we just had a small discussion about how,
When are we
Yeah.
gonna stop wasting resources on something that's not as big an issue as it was? It's not most
Because they
every
have to
resident,
test?
yeah, most every resident is handling it just fine.
and then
They
you have to
might-
report.
yeah. Some don't
Yeah.
even know they have it,
Yeah,
you know? And yet we're masking up and we're doing all this stuff that's costing a lot of money.
and it's also costing staff morale again,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
So, yeah, the state agencies are kind of a,
We're
Way
also,
behind on some
we're
of
also running the risk of the negative side effects of continual vaccinations.
yeah,
You're
Yeah.
really messing with
yeah.
a lot
Yeah,
of
every 4
internal
months.
components. That's,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not good.
And then, the other thing, I think Tom went too, I think, didn't he, a home run deal?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we went to the home run leadership program. Shar, Tom, and I were down there.
We did talk about that in the managers meeting.
Yes, and it was, I thought it's very effective. It's very simple. It's easy to understand for anybody. You don't have to take a whole bunch of leadership courses to figure out what's going on. It's uses a baseball analogy. It's pretty, and I used it yesterday at our HLDC meeting, and it works. It's pretty good process. So,
I shared at the managers meeting that when we have our discussion with the EDA, that I would like to use that format, because it's a good way to get all of us in discussion and iron out all of our concerns and possibilities, so. As that time nears, we'll be getting with Jeff to discuss that.
it was interesting. I had a long discussion with my wife about some of this stuff, because she's done a lot of this stuff, and the acronym he uses is IROD, and it's information, reaction, options, and then decision. And he likens that to running the bases in baseball, with information being first base, reactions being second base, options being third base, and decision being fourth base, home run. And if you skip any of those things, you end up having people who feel left out, not part of the discussion, or that you just ran them over with a decision without taking proper input from department heads or whatever it is. And so he's constantly in his presentation saying, just run the bases. Make sure you run the bases every time. Run the bases, run the bases. No matter how simple a thing it is, run the bases. And you keep gathering information to the point where nobody has any more information to give. You ask that secondary question, is there anything else? Is there anything else? Then when you're getting reactions from the information from people, you keep going around the table and you keep saying, is there anything else? until there's nothing else. Then you move on to the next one. If there's more, you keep taking it in. This may happen in one meeting. This could happen over 2, 3, 4, 10 meetings over a period of time. But you have to run, if you run the bases, at least when the decision is made, people feel like they were heard, and generally that it's the will of the group.
And, one thing I'd be curious about, in each of those IROD categories, information, gathering information, the, reaction and the option and decision, each person has a strength
Yeah.
or a weakness in those. Like my strength was the information gathering. Char's was in decision, but I'd be curious to know where you two would be in that.
Yep.
And there's a simple little test they give that
Yeah.
kind of would categorize you. And sometimes, depending on sometimes over time, you may shift from one to another, or you get some people that are pretty well balanced across all of them, you know. It just depends on your life experiences and stuff and a whole bunch of other things, but it's very, very helpful and easy to implement, really.
Yeah, it was very worthwhile.
Yeah, well attended too. So.
Yeah.
And it can be as simple as you just personally using the tool yourself, or you can expand it further. It just depends what you want to do.
It's a tool that really helps make sure that everybody's heard. And that's why at the end of each one of those spaces, you always ask, is there anything else? Just to make sure everybody's had a chance to speak up.
Yep.
He did talk about the negative of all 4 bases, because all of us can get stuck in whatever we are in, what our tendency tends to be, and then we either make a decision too quickly, or we don't get around to making a decision, and one other county shared how they're stuck in making a decision right now, and they're short a board member, and how that's impacting. It was pretty interesting.
It was, and when we broke out into those groups Tom was talking about, it was interesting how everybody described themselves, or the other question was, which one of the groups do you have the hardest time with? Well, the decision makers had the hardest time with everyone, because they just wanted to get to the decision and had their vision of what it was, and just couldn't understand why nobody just didn't want to do it. So yeah, that was good.
Thank you. Well, I left the work session early to go to the Minnesota Forest Resources Council meeting. That was really interesting. Once again, that is a group of people from around the state that's appointed by the governor. Surprisingly, when I got there, Brandon was making a presentation from the Hubbard County Soil and Water on something that I didn't even know existed, and that really impressed the Forest Council. And so they have a book you can go online. They have hard copies, and they have 300 copies they've given out to resorts of 20 acres or more. It's a beautiful publication, all kinds of bullet points, colored pictures. It's outreach material. I'm just going to read what I wrote down here. Forest management and water quality. And so it takes in the question of bird watching, fishing. It's a way to educate guests about land use and conservation easements. They go to Cass, Becker, and Hubbard. They try to get grant funding for the stewardship of the land, and the goal is to help with management of the lake shore. And so this publication is all about educating people that come to the resorts, not only in land management, but then for them to get out and enjoy the nature. And people were so impressed with his presentation and the content of it that he was asked to email out the information to everyone on this council. So I thought that was quite a compliment to the Soil and Water and what they've done.
Brandon's a really good guy.
Yeah,
He is.
so I did ask him whenever they come to do their presentation at a work session later this year that they would present that to us, because it was really interesting and very well done. Jill Sims, which is why Derek and I attended this, she's from the Hospitality Minnesota Director of Government Relations, talked briefly. They have 5 registered lobbyists, for Hospitality Minnesota, and both Derek and I thought she was gonna go into, how they sell Minnesota. But instead, she talked a lot about land conservation and partnering with different groups within the Forestry Council, and how to make sure that Minnesota stays to be a premier state for the outdoors. So anyway, it was very interesting. At the Mojave meeting, we talked about, the state now, or the IRS has raised the threshold for force out, for people that have terminated for, investments to $7,000. And so, we voted to move that forward into a policy so that people that have left could take their investments with them instead of Mojave still having to manage that. The other thing we talked about was 25% of the staff are not participating in a 401k. And Mojave, because they're trying to move people out of poverty, has a match of 5%. So even if the employee puts in 1%, Mojave is giving an additional 5%. Yeah, I know.
They're giving up 4%.
Yeah.
That's free money.
I know, but they talked about, when you're at that poverty level or just
You
the
don't.
survival level, you can't even see beyond because you don't have enough money to make the basics. And so, we're gonna develop a policy about automatically enrolling a person at 1% unless they in writing opt out and do further education to try to get them to participate.
I know other companies have made required at least beginning enrollment,
Yeah.
because, some people on their own just wouldn't.
Right, and when you're in your 20s and you don't think you have enough money even for the basics, retirement is way
And that's
up.
way off for them,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. And then yesterday I was at the Prime West Health Equity Council. An update, currently there's 51,899 members of Prime West, and the largest group is the kids and adults under 65. Out of the 33 counties, Hubbard is number 4 for membership. Beltrami County has 10,344. Douglas has 5,602, McLeod has 5,130, and Hubbard has 4,456. And down, out of 33 counties, Yellow Medicine has the lowest, but they're one of the newer counties that's joined, and they have 406 members. And then they broke it out into, because we're health equity, we're trying to figure out how to look at disparities and reach all people. Out of the membership, the American Indian is 6,860, Asian is 966, blacks are 3,340, non-selected is 7,782, specific is 610, and white is 42,116. And the 4 areas that we're focusing on is non-emergency transportation. People are still having trouble getting to their appointments. Food insecurity, one of the things that I think I shared last time is Prime West is doing a pilot program with people with diabetes, and they're actually sending a week's worth of food, just like from DoorDash. So the menu is all done, all they have to do is heat up the food. They're having great success with that. One lady shared she's lost many pounds, and her overall health has turned around completely, and so they're quite excited about that program. We talked about housing instability and then the language barrier. We could volunteer for a task force, and so I volunteered to be on the housing instability, and we're gonna be meeting later on that. And then I brought up something to Adam Fairbanks. He's the First Nations representative on the board, and I talked about what Steve Green had said, where the bloodlines are becoming so diluted that it's affecting the membership. And he shared that Red Lake has just redone their bloodline, and they moved everybody at the grandparent level. No matter what their bloodline was, they put them at 100%. And then they're redoing the family members down that way to not lose the tribe. There's several other tribes in the state of Minnesota that are contemplating what to do. So that was interesting. And Family Safety Network, we're continuing to work on and develop policy. That's what I had.
I just have one question about schedule-wise.
Yep.
Monday, the 17th it's Monday, the June 17th, it's the County Board of Appeals, correct, at 5 PM?
Yes.
Yeah,
Is that's a 6 though, isn't it? Or is it 5?
That was gonna be my question.
I wrote CBA 5 PM.
Oh, it's 5.
And
Yeah,
I was
it's
questioning,
5.
okay, am I
Question
right?
mark on mine, yeah.
Yeah, and do not miss that.
Yeah, no, I planned, and I did my online training, got all that done, I just wanted to make sure. And then, Jeff, I don't know if this is proper or not, but I have a slight request or favor to ask of you. Could you, please, contact the Cass County Administrator and have him put a little pressure on the county engineer for getting our border road, County 83 plan off to approval so we can get that work done. I've been getting a lot of pressure from people over there complaining to me that, oh, it's gonna be done this year and nobody has a plan, nobody's got anything approved. I just wanna make sure that the project doesn't get dropped by the wayside or foregone because we've committed money to it and nothing's happening.
I can email Josh and ask for an update.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and then we're all gonna be there tomorrow?
I won't be there.
You won't be there, but Ted and Tom, Dave, okay? Great.
Last thing I have a question on is EDA. They canceled the May 22nd meeting, and I haven't gotten anything back. I'm just wondering if you've heard anything.
I've seen the first draft, had an opportunity to make some comments on that, and got that back yesterday morning. So I would imagine before the end of the week, we'll get that second meeting scheduled.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure I didn't miss something. You know.
You did not miss anything.
Make sure we get the draft in time.
Yes,
Before the
we'll
meeting.
get the draft out with the meeting announcement.
Perfect. Thank you.
And then there's a note on if we want to register for the AMC, leave a legacy. And then building, buying, and collaborating for enterprise change, okay? I ended up missing the one on difficult conversations. That was last week and I ended up not going, but. Okay, can we have a motion to adjourn if we're done, or is there something else?
Motion to adjourn?
Okay,
Oh, is that the only topic for next week's work session?
That's the one we are aware of right now. I probably have a couple others.
oh, yeah, and Living at Home wants to come at some point, so I don't know if,
Yeah, I talked to them about that as
okay,
well.
okay. All right, so Ted made a motion to adjourn,
I'll second.
Tom will second, further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Do we have a personnel committee meeting?
We will not.
Okay.
Gina's in with the auditors today.
Lucky her.
Yep.
I won't be making it to Prime West.
Okay,
today.